So recently there's been some discussion on the internet as to what will happen after Classic WoW sees its final content patch after Phase 6. What will happen then? It's a good question, as the thing that keeps the majority of people playing Classic WoW is to see the next phase of content. I think it would be a mistake for Blizzard to simply leave Classic in some kind of stasis where we can only play Phase 6 Classic WoW for the rest of the time and nothing else. I think if that was the case, the Classic WoW community would see a sharp downturn in active players. So I really can't see Blizzard doing that. Blizzard said themselves that they are open to community feedback and that what they do after the final phase of Classic WoW is released is dependent on what the community asks for. And a lot of people say that Burning Crusade is the obvious next step. I even did a poll on my channel asking if people would be willing to play Burning Crusade servers if Blizzard released them. A high majority of you guys said yes, but some didn't. However, that being said, this poll was created during Phase 2. I think when we get to the end of Classic WoW's content rollout, the percentage of people answering yes to Blizzard TBC servers would be a lot higher. However, there are, in my opinion, 3 possibilities as to what could happen after the final content patch comes out in Classic. Number 1, we could get a rotation of fresh servers that basically just start from Phase 1 and this just repeats over and over again. Number 2, we could get new content added to Classic. So kind of like Phase 7 onwards, we would see brand new raids, battlegrounds and zones that's never actually made it to Classic WoW. And outcome number 3, we could get Burning Crusade era servers. So all of these have a possibility of occurring, and very much likely depending on what Blizzard sees with community feedback, they could go either direction with this. Blizzard said themselves that they're open to do whatever we want after all of the content in Classic is released. So in this video I'm going to be going over some of these outcomes and I'm going to be discussing the pros and cons and the likelihood of what Blizzard will do. So for outcome number 1, where we see a rotation of fresh servers starting from Phase 1, this would definitely be the easiest option for Blizzard, as it would essentially require zero work from them to continue people paying for a subscription to play Classic. All of the content has already been made, the netcode has been created, the bugs have been ironed out, so the cost on Blizzard's end for introducing fresh servers after Phase 6 is pretty much requires $0 from Blizzard's perspective. And the notion of a fresh Classic server always has appeal enough to bring people back and have some new players try it out, who maybe felt like they missed the boat for Classic WoW and they started a little too late. So I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some people that will want to play on fresh servers, either for an alt or just people new to the experience in general. Although this is a safe bet, it's the least exciting outcome for Classic after Phase 6. It's cool and all to have fresh servers, but for people that have invested their time into Classic from the beginning, I think a substantial amount of players would want to see the chapter of Classic continue, as opposed to just re-rolling an alt and starting from square one essentially. That definitely has appeal to some people, but from my point of view, it is the least preferable of the 3 outcomes. Outcome number 2 is very risky, but exciting at the same time, and that is the idea of Classic plus content, or in other words, Phase 7 and onwards. Now of course Classic as we know it will end in Phase 6 with Naxxramas being the final raid, however some people have been playing around with the idea of new content beyond that, which is created with the design philosophy of Classic era content in mind. Essentially creating 2 separate World of Warcraft timelines, where the Burning Crusade, Wrath, Cata and onwards never happened. Instead, new content could be things like the Emerald Dream, Aldea, Ajara Crater and so on, basically content that they would have put into Classic WoW anyway, but couldn't finish in time before the Burning Crusade. This would basically give Blizzard the opportunity to finish the projects that they've been working on 15 years ago, but never actually made it to the release. This may sound risky, and it is. Once substantial changes are made to Classic, can you even call it Classic at that point? From then on, it's no longer Modern WoW, and it's no longer Classic WoW, but it's a whole different experience that we don't know if it's actually going to be good or not. It would be very much dependent on if Blizzard could develop content like they did in Classic. The issue is that it would have to please Classic players, and that is a very hard task. If Blizzard slips up and adds a patch that makes the community upset, it could lose them a tremendous amount of subscriptions to the game. It might even bring people back to playing private servers as opposed to playing on Blizzard servers. For this reason, I think that Classic Plus content or Phase 7 onwards is the least likely outcome. it's just very risky for Blizzard. It could either be awesome and could just revitalize the Classic WoW community, but more than likely it will just make Classic WoW players mad, and it would just be another one of Blizzard's many controversies. I would be very nervous to see Classic WoW as we know it to be gone for good, as I'm not sure that Blizzard can even make content like they did back in the day. It's just such a different company compared to what it was in the early 2000s. That being said, old school RuneScape basically did this. The developers Jagex put in a bunch of new updates and content onto essentially their version of Classic WoW, old school RuneScape. And it has some mixed opinions. Some of the old school RuneScape players really like it, and some people don't like the new content. So although the idea of Phase 7 onwards is very exciting, it's just not worth the risk in my opinion. So the third outcome is of course Burning Crusade servers. So as opposed to Classic WoW Plus content being a really risky move, the Burning Crusade is a proven commodity. People already know whether or not they like TBC, and judging from the Classic WoW player base, the majority of people would want to see Burning Crusade servers, so it wouldn't be much of a risk for Blizzard to announce this. The Burning Crusade was in that golden period of WoW, where the core game elements are still old school, but different enough from Classic to feel like a new experience. The Burning Crusade was arguably the best expansion in WoW history, and also one of the most challenging periods of WoW, where the amount of work that you needed to put into your character was quite a lot. Raids were harder, attunements were harder, getting ready for raids was a lot harder. WoW saw one of its biggest growth periods in terms of WoW subscriptions during this period. TBC was perhaps the fastest period of growth that WoW has ever seen. So although TBC was a big challenge for the casual player, they still loved playing it. The idea of stepping through the Dark Portal on launch day is very marketable. You know that a classic TBC launch would see crazy viewer numbers on Twitch and YouTube. The Burning Crusade is just very easy to market. Another thing worth mentioning about the Burning Crusade is that in terms of min-maxing, it's much more uncharted territory. You see, unlike Classic, TBC doesn't have quite the extensive history with private servers as Classic WoW did. A lot of people going into Classic knew a tremendous amount about the game before even playing, either from playing private servers or consuming content about Classic before it even came out. A lot of YouTubers, including myself, made a bunch of guides and nostalgia videos about Classic before its release, and I think it kind of contributed to Classic WoW losing some of its mystique. Of course, a lot of new things were discovered about Classic after it came out, but when you consider that the private server players are the guys who are getting the world firsts in Classic today, I think that says a lot. TBC on the other hand is a lot more undocumented. There were a lot of Classic WoW YouTubers before it came out, but can you name a TBC WoW YouTuber? I can't think of any. The amount of information regarding min-maxing in TBC is a lot less, and there's a lot more mystery in TBC. The only issue with TBC servers is what if you just want to play Classic and not TBC? There's not much point in going to Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, and Courage when you can level up to 70 and do TBC content. If people are forced into going onto TBC servers as opposed to playing Classic, we could end up in the same situation that we were in a few years ago where people missed Classic WoW and couldn't play it because of the new expansions and patches. Imagine 10 years from now, people start a petition to get Classic WoW servers back again, to have the nostalgia of playing Classic WoW in 2030. Now there is an easy solution to this, and that is to have the option for people to either choose to transfer their characters from Classic WoW servers to TBC servers, or to keep them on the initial Classic servers. So every player has a choice. Do you want to play on a stasis server where it's Classic WoW Phase 6 forever, or do you want to go into the Dark Portal and go into the Burning Crusade? Giving players a choice like this I think would keep everybody happy. And to make even more people happy, I think Blizzard could throw in some fresh Classic servers that start at Phase 1 for anybody that is interested. This in my opinion is the best option, since the people who just want to play Classic WoW aren't losing anything, but the people who want to see more content and continue the chapter of the characters that they started can see more. And from my own personal point of view, I want to see TBC as I never really got to experience much of that expansion. I'm very interested to experience things like the Black Temple and Sunwell Plateau for the first time. In any case, we will know for sure next BlizzCon what Blizzard plans to do after Phase 6, but my bet is they will be announcing Burning Crusade servers. Make sure to leave your comments down below as to what you want to see happen after Phase 6. I know Blizzard watches some of my videos, so maybe Blizzard might read one of your comments. If you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below as it helps me out a lot. This is vaulty, signing out.